Hi, Peter Charles here. And have you ever bought a camera because it had a higher megapixel count than your old camera? Was it a good idea? Did it work out for you? Did you get the results you expected? Let's take some time and talk about it. Okay, in my previous video, I looked at the Voigtlander 50mm f1.2. I did some tests on it, and the results were, well, a little unexpected. So I thought, you know what, I might as well put some more effort into the analysis. I did. I started to get even more unusual results, so I thought, you know what, just go out and do a proper analysis of this. Now, I'm an enthusiast. I'm not an optical engineer. I don't have access to a proper optical bench. I'm doing this the old-fashioned way using the Mark I eyeball, and I took a picture of my bookcase. I cropped in on a high contrast symbol on the spine of one book, and I did it using this X-T1 with its 16 megapixel sensor, my X Pro 3 with its 26 megapixel sensor, and my XH2 with its 40 megapixel sensor using this 50mm Voigtlander f1.2. And I wanted to see what kind of results we get. Now, why did I do that? Well, first off, it's about the context of a lot of the opinions we see out there on the internet, or if we read in articles, or we read the marketing information that's provided with our cameras. So a lot of it, without context, we can draw a lot of inaccurate conclusions or make inaccurate assumptions. So what I'm doing with this particular test is to provide some context to the results you may be getting or the opinions you may be reading or hearing. Also, it's about managing expectations, our expectations. When we buy a new camera with a high megapixel count, what are our expectations when we do that? Are we automatically always assuming that the results are going to get better? And that's the myth-busting part, is they don't always get better. They can actually get worse. So to test this, I, as I said, set this camera up, these three cameras up with the 50-1.2. I took a picture of my bookcase at every aperture from f1.2 all the way up to f16. And then I spent hours examining these results blown up to see what the sharpness was relative to each other. So in other words, at f8, what's the sharpness with the 16 to the 24 to the 40 megapixel sensor? And I did that for every aperture, and I also did it vertically, in other words, from f1.2 to f16 for each sensor. And I spent hours and hours, studying these results to try and get the most accurate representation. And I put that up in a graph, which I'm going to put up in a minute. And this shows you some interesting results. So let's get going and take a look at this graph. Okay, on this graph, the blue line is the 16 megapixel sensor. The green line is the 26 megapixel sensor, and the gray line is the 40 megapixel sensor. And as you see on the x-axis, we go from f1.2 to f16. On the y-axis, these are arbitrary valuations I've given to the relative sharpness, ranging from 0 to 7. These are not actual measurements, these are just relative values. So keep that in mind. I don't have an optical test bench to give real values. So as you can see with the 16 megapixel sensor, the blue line, it gives us a relative sharpness that you would expect out of an f1.2 lens. It gets progressively sharper to f4, and then from f4 on, diffraction kicks in and things get worse. And that's not a surprise. That's what we expect. But when we put this lens on this 26 megapixel sensor, things change. First off, from anywhere from f1.2 to around f6.7, the 16 megapixel sensor is actually sharper. It's only when we get past f6.7 do we see the 26 megapixel sensor become sharper. The results are sharper. And diffraction effects appear to be delayed to about f8. So only beyond f8 do you start to see diffraction kick in. And then when we move to the gray line, which is a 40 megapixel sensor, it is the least sharp of the sensors until we hit around f7, and then it gets maximum sharpness at f8 and diffraction kicks in, but to a lesser extent than the other two sensors. So in other words, a quick analysis of this says if you're shooting below f6.7, you're better off with a 16 megapixel sensor, and if you're shooting at smaller apertures than f6.7, you're better off with the other two sensors. Now, from a real-world perspective, how meaningful is that? Well, the reality is what you're seeing here, that when you have a lens that was not specifically built for the 40 megapixel sensor, unlike this 16 to 55 zoom, which is perfect fit for the 40 megapixel sensor, this isn't. And it's not even a great fit for the 26 megapixel sensor. It's the best fit. You get the best consistent results, and you get a sharpness distribution that you would expect for an f1.2 lens only when you get to the 16 megapixel sensor. So in real world terms, what does that mean? Well, it means if you're trading up, for example, from an XT2 to a XT5, which goes from 16 to 24, it goes from 24 megapixels to 40 megapixels, then you're actually, and your glass is old Fujifilm glass, maybe some aftermarket stuff, some old film vintage lenses, where your results could actually get worse. Now, something I want to stress here is these results are going to apply to pretty well any system. It's not just Fujifilm. It's about pixel density. So in full frame terms, we'll be talking from a 24 megapixel to a 40 to a 60. You're going to get the same distribution as you're seeing here. So unless you have the glass that's going to resolve sufficiently well enough to work on these high pixel density sensors, you're likely to get reduced results, not greater results, not better results. So you're actually can be going backwards by going to a higher pixel density. So that's the important part to keep in mind, that it's not an automatic improvement. If you trade up, if it's full frame, you trade up from a 24 megapixel camera to a 60 megapixel camera, you're not automatically getting a better result. It depends on the quality of the lens that you have in front of it. And a lot of lenses will not be able to resolve these high pixel densities. Same thing applies to Micro Four Thirds as well. So, reality, bottom line here. This may not be important to you. It depends on your photography. But as a perfect example, you may take this little bargain basement TT Artisan's 25mm lens, which costs less than $100. You could put it on this XH2 and it won't come anywhere near resolving this sensor, but you might like the appearance. So just because your sharpness drops off doesn't mean it isn't a good lens to use on that particular camera. You might like the result. But the bottom line is, if you're looking for better results in terms of sharpness, you better be aware that the lens has to be good enough to work in front of that sensor. And if it can't resolve enough to work with that sensor, you're going to get perhaps worse results. As you saw in this graph, it would depend a lot on the aperture you're using, but you're going to see sort of the same distribution of sharpness, whether you're using a TT Artisans or a Sigma or a Tamron. Anything that's not designed for that specific sensor by that specific company, you're likely to see something that looks like the graph I've just put up. So if you are buying increased megapixels and you've made the assumption you're automatically going to get better results, you may find you're wasting your money. So trading up for more megapixels may not be the solution. In fact, if you like using old vintage glass, for example, you better be trading down to a less dense sensor. Going from, let's say, a 26 megapixel sensor back down to this 16 megapixel sensor, you'll get better results overall. So it's about managing those expectations of what kind of results am I going to get when I put this lens in front of that camera. And if you're not aware of that, you can be caught by surprise and be rather disappointed. And you might blame the wrong thing. I mean, I've watched videos on YouTube and read articles where people are saying the 40 megapixel sensor in Fujifilm is crap. And it's not crap. It's about the lens you put in front of it. You can't do an evaluation of this camera by putting some aftermarket lens with a much lower resolving power than this sensor can support. And I've actually seen those. I mean, it's ridiculous. Don't put some aftermarket cheapo on front of that sensor and think you're going to get great results that you won't. So it's being aware. And also applying context to all of the comments that you see on YouTube where the guy says, oh, that sensor's crap, or this is garbage, and blah, 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 blah. If you think about the pixel density of the sensor versus the resolving power of the lens being put in front of that sensor, a lot of the comments start to make sense. And that's the context I'm trying to give you with this video. And also have you aware of the issue so you don't get a nasty surprise and end up wasting some money. So give that some thought the next time you think about upgrading your camera to a higher megapixel count, when you actually maybe should be going the other direction and going downhill and getting a lower megapixel count to get better results. So keep that in mind. Cheers.